Guys, I am so excited for this episode right now. Francelia and I, my guest that I have on here, talk about so many incredible things. And we get on to some really touchy subjects of things that are happening right now in our world, maybe just specifically in our country too. And I want you to proceed listening to this episode with an open mind and be prepared to challenge some of your beliefs and some of the things that might come up for you while you're listening to this episode. Also, I want to thank all of my listeners, everyone that's in the States that's been listening to this. I mean, there's like 20 of you, 30 of you. I am so happy. Share us with your friends, share us with other people that you think would enjoy this podcast. Like, it is such an honor to have you guys listening. And I got 2 people in Russia. To my 2 people in Russia, thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. And to my person in Sweden, like, I hope you're enjoying the podcast too. Whoever you guys are out in other countries listening to this, listening to me gab with my friends and with other spiritual people on this podcast, like, I fucking love it. So thank you so much. And I just want to give you guys a shout out. Thank you. Here we go with episode 4. Welcome to the Feminine Voice of God, a podcast celebrating women's spiritual connections to God, Source, and Spirit, including the mystical and the psychedelic. Join us as we explore women's transformative experiences of divine revelation and spiritual empowerment. Okay. So here we are with Francelia Pacheco. I met her in LifeWorks. She was somebody that I immediately was drawn to because of her spiritual energy and her tattoos. So we're going to have to talk about the tattoos.
Yes.
We're of course going to talk about your story, but this is going to be episode 4. And I want to thank you for being here and being on the podcast with me.
Well, thank you, Nicole. I think it was a mutual, when you call on people, your spirit calls on people, you see people and you just see their light. I think it was a mutual that day that we met that night at LifeWorks.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel very honored to be doing this because I myself wanted to do a podcast, and the fact that we get to speak about what we love, which is spirituality, it's amazing for me.
Yes, it is. I know. And we're both drawn to it. And like we were just talking about earlier off mic, it's something that when you're doing it, there's this energy to it that you just feel so like just not only happy, but like called to do, like you're in your place, like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Yes. So I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's what your soul calls out to,
It is.
It just calls out to those people. And once you're open up to it, the universe will just place the right people on your path.
100%. I agree. So here we are placing each other's path.
I know.
And talking about all the fun stuff.
A lot of fun.
I know. So let's start with what moment in your life started your spiritual journey? What was it for you that really just, that you like awakened or that it kicked it off? Like what happened?
I believe it was in 2014. I had a coworker. I was still doing accounting at that time. I'm an accounting major, an accountant. I have my degree. And I was working in commerce, and the girl that sat next to me, her dad died, and she was overwhelmed with grief. And I know it is died because my mom died when I was 7, and I wasn't able to get over her death. And she said somebody lent her a book, and I told her, what is it? And she's like, it's helped me a lot. And I asked her for the name of it. She brought it to me. I read it. It changed my life. And the book is called Embraced by the Light by Edie Betty, I believe the last name is. And in the book, she talks about how we all have a soul contract, and we choose our life. We choose the difficulty of our lives so our soul can expand and go to a higher realm. And then the higher we are to God, creator, whoever you want to call, and all of that stuff in the book just resonated. And it, from one day to the next, Nicole, I'm not even kidding, it heals so much of the pain that I had from my mom. Because when my mom died, I was little. I was 7. My brother was 9. My sister was 15. And we all got separated. And I remember as a little kid, feeling her pain as a mom, because once I was a mom, I was like, she had to go through this,
You understand.
dying, knowing that she's leaving 3 little ones. And my mom used to be like a nomad. So she
Mhm.
never really was close to her family. So I knew she knew that we were going to struggle. So my pain of her death came from the pain that she had to experience dying. And once I read that book and it talked about soul contracts, it talked about how our energy, we don't, we don't die, we just transition.
Yes.
Everything started resonating. Everything started, and religion, I was brought up Catholic. I did all my, communion, all of that, but it
Oh,
never
man.
resonated with me.
Mhm.
There was just something about the Bible that didn't. As much as I wanted to believe in God and believe in, I believe in God, whatever God is to everybody. Now it's, for me, it's the creator, universe, source, energy.
Mhm.
And I feel like that was the reason why I couldn't resonate with the Bible, because it doesn't go against, my God is loving. And the Bible talks about an angry God, an
Yes.
a jealous God. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm not jealous of my kids. I welcome anybody who wants to live on my kids.
Yeah.
There's so many things in the Bible that didn't. But when I read that book, that was definitely the beginning of like, what is out there? Like
Well.
cosmos, that all these things that they're telling us, I always knew in my gut it was a lie.
Mhm.
But once that book opened the door to like a soul contract, what is a soul contract? I started Googling, and then, you go down the rabbit hole, and then the
Mhm.
universe is so good at placing the people in your path, the right people, the right circumstances. And it was just a downfall from there. And it's been amazing. I've had so many things happen, just like abnormal things, that once you give in, you start meditating, you give into your insight, you believe in your spirit. The spirit of God is within us.
Yes.
I started listening to Abraham Hicks. I started listening to Dwayne, what's his name? Dwayne Wyatt? What?
Mhm.
No, God, I can't believe it. He passed already. I can't remember his name, but he talks about like the spirit that's in with us.
Mhm.
We just gotta trust it. And so many things, once I started giving into it, just letting it trust the process, they just started falling into place. And then
Yeah.
people, psychics would just walk. I'd be someone, a psychic person, be like, hi, I wanted to share this with you. And I was like, holy moly. And it was
Oh
just
my
the
God,
right
that's
thing
so
that I
cool.
needed to hear. Like the story talked about off mic about my son going to Arizona and
Mhm.
walking into a crystal store, and the lady telling him, I need to speak to you. You're meant to walk into my store.
Yes.
I have a message for you, but I also have a message for your mom. She's
Ooh.
psychic. Tell her this, tell her that, giving me the blue lapis to open up my spiritual gifts and
Mhm.
little things like that, And then that opened up the door to crystals and me working with my chakras and learning what my chakras was.
Mhm.
And then doing hypnosis so I can contact my higher self and my spirit and know what I needed to know to continue on the path. Because when you're Mexican and you're born Catholic, it's such a taboo to talk about anything that is not
Mhm.
in their sense of the Bible.
Yes. Yeah. No, 100% I agree. And I want to pause really quick to talk about the Bible thing, because I totally understand what you're saying, because I grew up, I was raised LDS or Mormon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Christian, right? It's a Christian religion, but there's the same thing. There's all these things that you read about in the Bible about God and about how God wants you to behave and act. And if you don't, he gets upset and all this,
You're burning out.
this conflicting stuff. And when I had my son, I thought to myself, how can somebody that loves us so much do this? I would never do this to my son. Never would I tell my son, because you made a decision that I'm not in agreement with and it disrespects me, or it's not following my plan of what I want for you, like you're condemned for eternity. Francelia, not even for like a year or a couple years, it's like for eternity.
Yeah.
You're burning in a lake of fire. Oh no.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way.
Oh my God, Nicole, we're so meant
There's
to
no
do.
way. Yeah. And I actually had an experience on psychedelics, on mushrooms, when I was like 19. I was at this party, and this is not the way I would suggest for people to do it. It's like ceremonial. It's something that you have to set the set and setting, but I was young, right? So I'm 19. I'm doing mushrooms with my friends, and this is the first time I had ever done it.
Mm-hmm.
And the message that whole time was that the God that you've been taught you believe in isn't real. Yeah. And it's something else. And I was freaking out. Like my life, I thought was over. I was like, oh my God, why did I do these mushrooms? I was like, my life is over. I was like, God's not real. What are we living for? What's happening? And it was this crazy experience. And then from then, I started figuring out that God was living within us. The kingdom of heaven is within you, right? It's in all these people that I would meet and all these experiences that I would go through. And when I started living from that place, things started falling into alignment for me, just like you're saying with yourself too. Like you're just led to places and to do things that you're like, oh my God, it's just like, it's perfect. And it works out perfectly. I remember you telling me something about your son kind of starting you on the path too, or helping you with your path.
Right.
Right. So like, let's talk a little bit about that. What influence has he had? Was he like more like into spirituality first and then you got there? When did that start shifting for you more, even more, like where you really stepped into your power?
First, Nicole, I like to say that I believe the kids from 2000, maybe even late 90s, are already born with that gift of their higher consciousness. They're coming in with less residue, less lives lived. So they're closer to the creator, they're closer to source, or closer to that energy. And as a child, he was just like that.
Yes.
And I can see it in him. As a matter of fact, when he was 1 or 2, like we used to call him little man because he was so advanced of how he connected with people. And I could always see it in him. But again, growing up Mexican, and I'm from Mexican hardcore. I was raised in Mexico till 10 years old.
Yeah.
And it's embedded in you like this. And like, God, it's so beautiful. Like, it's almost like you were inside of my head. But at the same time, it's not, because the illusion that we're separated is that. The illusion, we're not separated. We're particles of God. We're little fractures, of fractals of God himself. So me and you are one. So the fact that you said what I had in my mind all these years of like me being like this minuscule little person in this huge earth, vast universe, have so much love for my children, wouldn't hurt my pets or anything. I would never, like you said, condemn them. And I'm just so tiny, so like nothing compared to this creator, whoever's out there that created all these things. Like, what a disrespect if I was the creator. Like, really, you think of me that little?
Yeah.
But the fact that you had the same thought is like mind-blowing, because we're still living in the matrix. But then it's not, because we are one.
Yes,
so having that same thought is like, yeah, I can see it. But Gabriel has always been like that. He's always so, in high schools when I was really lost, where I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, during his high school years, when he was in high school, is when I started looking at Christian churches and going, and I like the gospel and all of that. But again, every time they preach something, I'm like, oh, you can't sin. I can't stand that word sin. It's like, you're a sinner. Your son's born a sinner.
Yeah.
How?
What? Yes.
Like, first of all, we're letting ourselves be brainwashed, because we have such a genius. We're created by a genius. And because we don't look within, we're looking without. We go without. We're going without God, because he's in us. He created us. It's like our children when they're like, oh, your child looks like, well, yeah, he has my DNA. He has my blood, my cells. Everything.
Yeah, you created him.
So why are we not being intelligent enough to think like, God created us. Hello, we have him in us.
I know.
And they even talk about it in church. Oh, like the Spirit of God's within you. Yes, focus on that.
Yeah.
And so my gay role started being more like, no, I'm not going to church anymore. And I'm like, yes, you are. So we started having those.
Yeah.
The Mexican hardcore in me was like, you're going to church because I say so. And then he was like, no, I'm not. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to hit my son, because that's how my parents treated me. And I didn't like it. Why am I going to do that to them?
Yeah.
So it kind of like paused. And I was like, what do I do? Like, I'm not going to handle him how I was handled, because it was horrible. And it traumatized me. And I had a lot of the wounds from that. So how do I not do that to him, but still get to... So then we started opening the conversation, and he started sharing a lot of the stuff that he would read or Google, and I wasn't into that. I was in mom mode and like, providing, taking care of the house, taking care of my husband, taking care of the kids, going to work, so he had time to like go deep into the whole of whatever, technology is for kids.
Yeah.
And at that time I wasn't into that. Like I'm into accounting, and I'm just like, go from there, go home, go take care of the husband, take care of the kids.
Yeah, you're like on your automatic.
Yeah. So when he started bringing these things up, when I wanted to be understanding of him, is what opened the door. And then, of course, he talked about Rasoni and how sacred it was. And then, like I said, we had those people that we run across into, like I was in Santa Monica one time walking. And again, a psychic lady pulled me over and she said, hey, this, and that. And I'm like, and sure enough, 4 years later, it happened. And
Oh
when
my
it happened, I was
gosh.
like, holy, so little stuff like that. And then I remember when I was little, I used to have knowings
Mm-hmm.
and I just didn't question them. I would go with it,
Yes. Yeah.
and I used to be great at it. And I thought we lose ourselves so much when we let ourselves get caught up in the matrix and, what the
Mm-hmm.
government tells us what we can or we can't undo. And so once I started listening to Gabe and developing that connection with him, I mean, the universe just said, hooray. And they started
Yes.
pouring down like the
Oh my
signs, like,
God.
the numbers,
Yeah.
the angel numbers. And I started listening and I started going back to reverting to like when I was little and how great the things I accomplished because I let my inner spirit. I
Mm-hmm.
trusted myself. And then Gabriel introduced me to Dolores Cannon.
Oh,
She talks about,
yes.
past lives regression,
Mm-hmm.
the hypnosis, the QHHT, quantum healing
Mm-hmm.
hypnosis, which I did that. And it talked about like, listening to yourself talk in the third person, like Francelia is this and Francelia is that. And then you play that back and you're like, holy shit, like there's
Mm-hmm.
something else out there
It
outside
is.
of
Yeah.
us. But at the same time, it's inside of us. And it's been, I'm going to say for sure 2019 from then on, it's just been like fully giving into it. I'm like absorbing it. Whatever comes, I'm going to follow it, So I started from 2019 going to Arizona, doing the hypnosis, listening to my higher self, going down the rabbit hole of studying Dolores Cannon's work,
Mm-hmm.
Dwayne Dreyer. I can't say his name. Stupid accent. I think it's Dwayne Wire. Dwayne Wire? Oh my God. I'm going
That's
to have to
okay.
Google him. But he talks a lot about that, the spirit and the soul of
Yes.
us going without. So them too was a big catalyst for starting to believe more in me and the saying of like, everything's always working out for me. The universe constantly
Yes.
conspiring on my behalf and then happening, and I didn't need to see the evidence because it was happening so often. I was like, okay, take care of me, universe. And I was like talking in my heart.
You just start trusting. Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
Start trusting.
Yeah. You just start trusting and it's this knowing. It's a knowing that it's going to happen.
Exactly.
I tell people it's like when you see the sun coming up, like you just know. And when it's gone, you know that it's going to come back. You don't question, oh my God, is the sun going to come up tomorrow? Is it going to be here? What if it doesn't rise? Do I have to do something to make sure that it's going to be there? What if it doesn't happen? Like all of that, that's what we do with our everyday life, with everything. We're like trying to plan it and make it happen in the way that we want and control it in the way that we want, that we think is going to work out for us when it's already working out for us. Like everything's perfect. It's already perfect. Even the things that we think aren't perfect, that we think are a struggle, like you with Gabriel, like you at that time, you were probably like, oh my gosh, my son is fighting against me to go to church and he needs to go to church because I have to save his soul, right? That whole energy of you have to take care of your children and teach them in the right way and this and that. And then you realize like that he already knew his path. Yeah. Like, even though maybe not consciously right away, but it started coming to him, like it was already all planned out. Yeah. And like it's just so incredible, honestly, like to think of it like that when you trust. And, I was sharing with you, I did my own mushroom ceremony last night. And no joke, that was one of the messages that kept coming up to me. Like I had written in my journal all these questions. I'm like, okay, I need an answer to this and I need to know about this and I need to know about this. So spirit, guide me and tell me what to do. So I'm doing my mushroom journey. I'm going into it and it's showing me all these things that I'm struggling with. And it tells me, how can I say this? It's like showing it to me and it's like, but that's their journey or that's what I have planned. Like you're fighting against it and you're causing yourself all this tension by trying to make it something different than what it is.
The resistance.
Yes. Like just accept it. And you either accept it and live with it or you change yourself because those things aren't changing. You are the person that needs to change and shift if you want it to be different. And so just accept it, or you're going to be in this resistance where you're going to be like tension, like inflammation, like carrying all this emotion and this uncomfortability. And I was like, okay, fine. And then it went into just trust. It's like when you trust things, and it shows me these visions, like when I'm trusting and I'm doing something, like something works out. It would show me like, I can't even explain it. Like this, when you're speaking the language of the universe is what I call it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll use this example I read in my journal because I can't explain my mushroom trip right now. But it was like, one time I was looking for my glasses and I could not find them. And there was this part of me that wanted to just flip the fuck out. And it was like, where are my fucking glasses? I need them. I can't drive without them. Like getting in that anxious mode, right? And then this other part of me was like, just trust. They're going to show up. They're going to come to you. And I was like, okay, I'm going to trust. They're going to come to me. And like right after I let go of the anxiousness and the anger of not being able to find my glasses, my boyfriend comes over to me and he's like, hey, I just found your glasses. They were over here. So, and it's like, that is what the mushroom trip was showing me. Like when you let go and you trust, like just trust that it's going to work out and things work out. And it was an incredible experience. Yeah. So I love that all of us, so many of us that are on the spiritual journey are experiencing these same things without it being taught to us, without us having to sit in like a building and learning, without it being like this religious, thing where they're like, this is it. Sometimes, I mean, I've read a lot of things in books that I have, but there's so much that has just been, like you said, downloaded. Like it just pops up and I'm like, where did this come from? Mm-hmm. So there's so much of that I think a lot of us are experiencing that shows that we're onto something. Like
something big.
Yeah. We're fucking all waking up and it's happening. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. I think it's being in control. It's what keeps you in the matrix. Because we want to control how our lives are going to be. We want to control the day. We want to control the outcome. And that's where we get caught up. Because we're not letting the spirit within work its, magic. And the universe is magical.
Yes.
Like it's so freaking magical.
I love that.
Nicole, I went from being, and people that know me will tell you, I went from being like somebody who, I ran companies. So imagine being an executive, being a HR, being an accountant, running the numbers for my companies and the reports, to somebody that, to herself when she's driving. It's like, okay, spirit, thank you, like you said, perfect example, the keys. The glasses, you lose your keys and you're like, okay, spirit, can you show me? Cause I'm really in a rush and I welcome, and I'm so like laid back on things now because I know there's a reason for it. So if I'm late for me not finding my keys, maybe they'll deter me from an accident. Like before I would have been pissed, angry, like road rage, And now like you look at, and it's such a peaceful way of being.
It is.
Because the universe is not angry. Our God is not angry.
No.
He's not jealous. He's not that little immature person that whoever made the Bible up, which is many people. The Bible has been conspired by men who have an agenda. So people don't think of that either. And just like the school system, they put us in school for 12 years to program us to be good little workers.
Yes.
But when we do that, we turn off the spirit within to say, hey, guess what, Nicole? You should follow your gut to be like a yoga instructor because people need healing. And that's why everybody's sick.
I know.
Listening to me. I work with Innate. Innate, it's a smart body, and he keeps me healthy. I ask him things. And if people start believing in themselves and looking within instead of out, your body has all the answers. So does your brain, and so will spirit. Spirit will guide you. It's going to take time, but if you trust it, they'll take care of you forever. And you can ask it, like you said, you ask the questions and it'll answer you.
It does.
You could do meditation, but if you get to a point in your life where you're in constantly communication, the answers come super quick. Even with parking, oh my God. I'll go at nighttime if I need something for my kids. I'll go at nighttime and I'll be like, okay, spirit, keep me safe. Can you find me a parking like super close to the light, like to the entrance? Sure enough. And it never fails.
Same.
I can tell you the past 2 years, it's been magical. And I'm constantly talking to spirit. Like if I'm in the house and something happens, I'm like, thank you, spirit. I know it was you. There's no way and anything else. That's just the way my universe works now because I trust it. I let go of control. I let go of the matrix and I let go of anything that was resistant, and I gave him full control, spirit, full control. If I have to do something, I'll stop and I'll ask for guidance. I'll talk to my angels, just, if I see something like the angel numbers, or if I see a message or a song, and I'm like, hey, that pay attention. The universe is constantly talking to you.
It is.
Constantly.
Yes.
And so I'm like, oh, wow, what a difference of like the scared, angry little girl human being that I used to be after my mom's death, because I was angry for a long time.
I bet.
I was like, why would you take the mother of this poor children? We're already poor living in Mexico. It was bad enough. And then you need to take their mother, and you don't have answers to that. The church doesn't give you answers to that. There's no way. But reading that book and understanding soul contracts is like, oh, she wanted her soul to expand. And then listening to Dolores Canyon about, our soul contracts and how we can expand to higher realms, higher energy, because there is different frequencies, And when you're in a good space, that frequency, that vibration, that's where you attract better. But when you're in the low frequencies, low energy, you'll attract all that shit, the wrongdoings, the wronggoings, the whatever you want to focus on, that's the energy that you're going to attract. So I learned to listen to spirit. I learned to listen to my inner self, the God within. That's what I call it. God within, that energy that's just, and it's been beautiful. It's been so many things. Like, have you heard of Mount Shasta?
Mount Shasta, I have.
It's the heart chakra of the world. So it's up north, passing Bakersfield. And me and Gabriel have gone out there with a couple.
Oh my gosh.
My little white witch, but she's magical. She's gifted as well. We're all gifted. We all are the same. Some of us are more advanced because we let more, or we've done it longer. But she's definitely, so she holds little, I don't know, I don't want to call them seminars, but she holds little weekends where we do it in June, which is the summer solstice. And then in September, which is the winter solstice, which are magical portals opening. And now Shasta has that portal because, and this is probably for another episode, because there's, the aliens and all that good stuff, the other beings.
Oh, we got time.
Okay. The other beings that live in there, live in that mountain, because during the time of Atlantis, all of this, they went into hiding. So we did some certain ceremonies out there, and you get to talk to other beings.
Yes.
So if I wasn't in the space where my frequency, my spirit is growing and my soul is expanding, I probably wouldn't have been able to see them. I wouldn't have had the communication with them, because my perception, it would have still been like 3D. But me, now I tell myself, me and my daughter talk about this. We live in 5D. We live in the happiness, because we started this when COVID happened. Every day we would be like, COVID doesn't exist in our reality. We never once got COVID.
Oh, I love that.
Out and about, we were like at Chevron every day when we were working at accounting back then, touching everything, never wore masks. We wouldn't let people tell us what to do, and never got COVID. I took care of people with COVID. Didn't catch it, because again, it was my own reality, and I created it. And in my reality, COVID wasn't going to exist, and I wasn't fearful. And that was the beauty of spirit and the God creator. If you trust in your God creator, he'll keep you healthy. And so for me, it was like a testament of how spirit works within the spiritual world.
I know. No, and I want to stop and pause really quick about the COVID piece, because I'm sure there's probably people that are going to listen to this they're going to have a lot of stuff come up with what you just said. People are going to get angry. People are probably going to be like, oh my gosh, so many people died. It was horrible for this reason and that reason. And I got sick, and my so-and-so got sick. And I know people that have people that got sick and died.
Well, my dad died
from it. Right.
So
and I think the fear that they put into us, and it was globally, the fear that was placed on us is what made people get so much more sick. If we hadn't had all of that fear that came with it, I think it would have been a completely different thing. But it was so much fear. It was instilling fear in everybody. And and it was just what we were talking about. When your body is in that frequency and in that energy, then all of a sudden it's like things affect you more. It's drawn to you. And I remember getting COVID. I did get it. But my thought was, it's just an illness. Like, my body is going to battle it, and it's going to be stronger, and it's going to become better, and it's not going to take me out. It's good. It's all good. And I got it a couple times, and it was like a really bad flu. And I think too, and I hate to say this, and I'm sure people are going to say, oh, the conspiracy theory part, but just stick with us, people, okay? Like, there is people that are going to use us as a means to their end, and we are working on their agenda of control. And I feel like the vaccine was the biggest freaking like hoax to get people to sign up, get in line, take this shit. And it was like a whole other form of brainwashing, because there are so many people that they changed it up so many times. It was like, oh, if you get the vaccine, you're going to be fine. But then there was people that got the vaccine and still got sick, and they're like, oh no, maybe not. Right. And then they changed it up to, oh, yeah. Oh, the vaccine is going to protect the people, and only the people that are vaccinated can come in and have food and go shopping and all this crazy shit. And I was like, this is insanity. It was insanity. It was so crazy. And there's people that I know that got the vaccine that also passed away right after they got the vaccine. So we are, like you said, it's just them using us as guinea pigs and us being a part of the agenda of somebody else's control. And when they have, and this was something I kind of got yesterday too, when they have all of our attention and all of our energy focused on these things, they're empowered, right? And people are always like, who's they? It's like, it's not really some specific people, and it is. They're specific people, but it's also that energy. Right? I call it, it's the great game of God, right? All of it is God. Everything, every single part of it. The light, the dark, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, the horrible moments, the life and the death, all of it. And it's the great game that God likes to play, right? Of this darkness coming up and trying to take control and trying to keep us all asleep, keep us all in that survival instinct, living in our lower nature. And it's the game of, are you going to wake up?
Yeah.
Are you going to empower yourself? Right? Are you going to wake up from the sleep and come back to the side of the light so we can play in that game for a while? Right? That's where they talk about when Jesus comes back, we'll have however many 1,000 years of peace or whatever it is that it says. Because when we're all in that Christ consciousness and we're all awakened, it is. The lion can lay with the lamb, because all that survival, all of that taker energy that we know about, right? You're not living there anymore. So it shifts everything for you. But we have so many people that are attached to that because it's comfortable there. As uncomfortable as it is, there's comfortability in that, because pain is something that's familiar for us, that people know and understand.
100%.
You know, and like even with your mom, right? Talking about your mom and losing your mom when you were 7, and all the thoughts that came up for you about that, and about like your mom being taken away. On a soul level, there is a part, and I truly believe this, where our family members knew and know, and we knew that was going to happen. Like we all talked about it. Like we knew it was going to happen. And your mom knew how painful it would be, but knew that it was going to awaken you.
It was needed.
Yes.
It was needed.
And awaken your son and your daughter and all the people and lives that you are going to touch, for her to leave at the time that she was called. You know, I just got chills, like even just thinking that, because it's like with my brother, you know, my brother passed away and it was horrible. And I was like, this is the worst thing ever. Same thing. I was like, God, why? But I would not be the person I am today. So it's all perfect. Everything's working out. Yeah. For the highest good on every single timeline for every single sentient being that exists, not only in our world, but in all worlds.
Every reality, every realm. So there's so many things that you just like little gold nuggets that you're dropping in there. And so as a kid, I always knew I was different. And I always gave it to, because if you go to Mexico, and those who know and gone to Mexico, kids there are adults at the age of 7. Like they're working their asses off. They speak like an adult. They're mature. There's no such thing as like the stuff that you see here over there. Yeah, it's like day and night, and I love it. I would never turn back the time, because I just feel like it's a different world. And when you were talking about like my mom already knowing and playing that part, 100%. And that's why I said that book was like the opening of my spirituality, because the moment I read soul contracts, we all play a part. And, like we're up in heaven or whatever you want to call heaven, but we're up in the universe, in the vast, cosmos, planning this human experience. And it's a bunch of souls getting together and saying, hey, do you mind being like my mom and you're going to do this? Or, hey, Nicole, do you mind being like my foster mom and then hitting me and then, abusing me so I can grow, expand, and forgive you and not hold any resentment to you? Or my mom, can you be, play the role of like dying on me at 7 so my soul can expand and learn to be more loving and learn to seek within instead of out and finding the God within. And it's definitely, and it's, again, probably for another episode, but there's proof of that. There's so much, people that have near-death experiences can tell you this.
Yeah.
And so there's so much proof of what's out there, and I won't even call it death, because for me, it's just transition now. Oh God, I lived maybe 20 years in fear of dying and doing that to my kids. Can you imagine the torture I went to? And in my 40, I think I was 40 when I finally read that book. So I could have saved so much, but then I'm like, no, because like you said, everything's perfect. Everything was supposed to be the way it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so knowing that we're just expanding, growing is such a beautiful thing in itself, because you allow your spirit to have that freedom of guiding you, of, you can inspire with your guardian angels, with your angels that pass, that, have already transitioned. They're in a different energy, but they're still holding space for you.
Yeah,
always. And the minute people, and I'm speaking from somebody who, God, I would cry myself to sleep. I would contemplate, like, how would I be able to leave this earth but still not hurt my children? Because I couldn't stand the pain anymore.
Yeah.
I was always feeling alone. I always felt like just empty. I went through so much pain. I can't even put it to words, but I know that those 20 years was hell for me. It was just like on a different level of like what a human should experience, and finding spirituality and myself and how it all works. It's been such healing. It's so healing, because I heal me, but I heal others at the same time.
Yes, we do.
And again, we're not separated. We are one. We are connected. God is part of everything, the earth, the trees, the birds, like everything. And there's a sign in everything. But if we go back to the COVID, that fear, if we would let spirit work within us, he would keep us healthy all the time. If we would stay in that vibration, that frequency high, and not fall into the lower dimensions, the lower frequencies, we never get sick, because fear is what makes the immune system come down. It's been scientifically proven that fear is one of the lower energies, one of the lower frequencies. When you're in that vibration, you'll catch cancer, because whatever, like we talked about, whatever you focus on, that's the energy you're bringing upon. So if you're having bad thoughts, those bad thoughts will go into the energy of the universe, and that's what comes and surrounds you. Constantly thinking traffic and accident, you're going to provoke an accident, because that's how strong our mind is.
Yeah.
People still don't accept it.
I know. Yeah.
And it's crazy, because they talk about manifestation, like that movie. What's that movie called?
Was it The Secret?
The Secret.
That was a big one for a lot of people.
God, I remember sitting in my steps at my house outside at that time with my ex-husband, and The Secret came out, and I looked at him and I said, I thought everybody thought like that. I had no idea that was The Secret. I said, all my life I thought like that.
Yeah.
Like
So you've known The Secret.
Yeah,
the whole
I didn't
time.
know it was The Secret, but apparently it was. And that goes back to what I was saying. Like, I always knew it was different, but I thought it was because I was raised in Mexico. So all the knowing, all these things inside, I thought it was like, oh, because I was raised in Mexico.
Yeah.
So maybe I know more than these kids. So when I came from Mexico, I was about 8, 7. And I remember being smarter in the sense of like, the English language. A lot of the kids couldn't spell or they couldn't read. And I was reading like 2, 3 times higher than them. And I was like, how is it that I come from Mexico? And me having that awareness, knowing that I knew that, it was like, or I would do sports and I'm like, for track, I love running. I used to always be in track, and you get in the, the setting, you're more like skitsy. As soon as I would get on the line, I'd be like, oh, I got this. I'm going to win.
Yeah.
And I win it. And things would always be like that.
Mhm.
Again, I always thought, oh, it's because I'm from Mexico and kids are built different there and
Yeah.
tougher and we're built for tough, But once I started doing the hypnotherapy and I would talk to my son, they're like, no, it was your spirit knowing
Yes.
what you can create.
Yeah.
You would create that, but you would let spirit connect with you, but you also thought it was because of Mexico. So we just let you run with it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like
Yeah.
so many conversations that you can have within yourself to give you those answers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing for me. And so growing up, I always, we call it manifestation, right? But
Mhm.
I would focus on those things. I would focus on good things that I wanted to happen. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to have this when I'm 15. I'm going to have this when I'm 20. And boom, it would just exactly how I would write it down, because I would write these things down and they would come to pass. And then once they started coming to pass, I was like, oh, I'm more powerful than what I originally thought.
Yeah.
And then it started shifting. Well, like, maybe it's not because I'm from Mexico, but it's at that time, nobody talked about spirituality.
Mhm.
Nobody talked about all these things, the universe, the cosmos.
Yeah.
And then there's things that would happen, like I couldn't even explain them. And I couldn't talk to nobody about them. So then they would fade out because I wasn't giving it to that power.
Mm.
And I remember when I watched back in, I don't know, then late 90s, early 2000s, Star Wars. And and I was like, I looked at my ex-husband and I'm like, you know this shit exists, right?
Yeah.
And he looked at me like, you fucking cuckoo. And I was like, no, seriously. And he's like, where did you get this from? I'm like, think about it. Somebody had to experience that for it to come to life.
Mhm.
You think that doesn't exist? I'm like, it didn't just pop up in somebody's thought. They created Star Wars back in 1984, nowhere near the technology that we have now. So
Mhm.
how is that possible that they came out with these great creatures, different universes?
Yeah.
And all the movies that are out there, they're for a reason. But we're so stupid that we're so brainwashed that we get caught up in their matrix that we allow it to happen. So it's just great. And that's when I really started to be like, oh, there's something
They're
going
onto
on here.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going to just be like, oh, I'm so genius. Let me come up with all this in the 1980s. There's no
Mhm.
way. And then as other movies would come out, like The Matrix is like right in our
Oh
face.
my God. I
But
love
we're,
the
again,
Matrix.
12 years of being programmed to follow what their agenda is.
Mhm.
We're so blindfolded, we don't even see. If you would tell me,
Yeah.
no, because we're already, brainwashed to think how they want us to think. So
Yeah.
if I put a movie about the Matrix telling us the truth, we're like, oh, that's so creative. Oh, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
but, like the deeper us that really trusting, we know. Like,
Yeah.
that's not just a movie. That
I know.
exists.
No, I 100%.
Like the other one with Doctor Strange, the
Oh,
universes.
Yes. Doctor Strange is great too.
Again, all of that exists.
I know.
There's so many movies out there that all of that exists.
Yeah. It's all like, I think what we were talking about, right? There's like downloads that come to
Exactly.
people,
Yeah.
and spirit is also speaking
Yeah.
through people,
Yeah.
right? So like the Matrix, it's so crazy that you bring up the Matrix, because the Matrix for me was another moment when it like really woke me up too. I had never watched it, and I remember seeing pieces of it and thinking like, this movie looks so stupid. I was like, who would watch this? I was like, what is happening?
Mm.
And my boyfriend, actually, after we did a shroom journey, it's like when you're on the come down, like you're still kind of a little having like some stuff come up, but you're not like completely immersed in what's happening. He's like, let's watch The Matrix. I was like, all right, I've never seen it. He's like, you've never seen it? I was like, no. So we put it on. Oh my God, Francelia, I felt like it was talking to me. Like it was telling me secrets and things that have been like hidden for such a long time. And I was like, oh my God, it fucking blew my mind. So I always tell people, I'm like, you should watch The Matrix after you're like coming down from a mushroom trip, from a mushroom journey, like watch it, because it speaks on a whole other level. Like it was insane. And the people that made that actually made, they did The Matrix. It's these two individuals.
One of the ladies, she does movies like that a lot to put the truth out there.
Yeah, it's these two. They're like brothers or sisters. I forget what they are right now, but they made The Matrix. They made V for Vendetta. I don't know if you've ever seen V for Vendetta, right? Same thing. Like, it talks about this illness that comes and this vaccine that saves everyone, and it's all this political agenda, and this guy's trying to free everybody from that, right? From the control. They also made Cloud Atlas. I don't know if you've ever seen Cloud Atlas.
Thanks.
No? Oh my God, you should watch Cloud Atlas. It's so good. So like these people make these movies that are like these movies, I feel like, of awakening. Like, they're trying to wake people up.
Yeah.
So
Goodness.
yeah, and it's so incredible. So there's these little things that are left for us. And we're, like you said, we're all one. So it's all different parts of us working together to wake each other up, to help each other come back to that. And when we're not connected to it, all the shit that we see happening in the world happens.
Right.
You know, however, that's all part of the process and part of the journey too. So it's definitely, it's finding the balance of that. But also, I think the biggest thing, at least from what I got yesterday from my own journey that I was in, was to trust, and trusting that it's going to work out, and just letting go and stop trying to control everything and stop trying to make it how I want it. You know, I want to talk a little bit about, we have a little bit of time here. I want to talk about, we brought up your tattoos at the beginning of this. So I want to ask you about your tattoos, and you can tell us about them. I'm going to hand you the little mic. We're down to one mic, guys, because our other one died. So I'm going to hand Francelia the mic. Tell us what your tattoos are and why you got them. Because that was like, when I saw that, I was like, oh my God. And I was just so drawn to you immediately. So share with us about your tattoos.
A little background. I was raised by elderly people. So my mom died, got adopted by my uncle and his wife. Never had met them, and they were in their 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was 10, they're pretty old. So I was raised very conservative. And then I went into accounting, which is very librarian.
Yeah.
Always very covered in my hair, very minimal makeup, always very. So that's always been my thing, like very, because of how they raised me, very conservative, very, but there's like, it's very just wanting to be liberated. So as soon as I wanted to leave my job, my accounting career, I went into real estate 5 years ago, and I started getting little tats, and I just fell in love with it. And I have a portrait of my mom on my left inside in her arm. And I was in Mexico when I got that one, and he started working on my daughter's tattoo. And again, we call them downloads, right? Because I no longer say, oh, I had a thought. No. There's higher self, higher power that gives us this information for the greater of all of us. And I was just sitting there, and all of a sudden, I felt that. I felt like look up, and I heard look up in Egyptian, and I don't even know if I Googled it, but I looked it up, and it was the Ankh. And the Ankh. And so the Ankh was the original cross. And they from the circle, because, you know, we're full circle, that the feminine and the masculine energy is really one, but we separated because, you know, here we play the characters of male and female. But in the sense of religion, you know, like we talked about, I've always had that struggle of like fully giving into the Bible because it didn't resonate with me. It just didn't. So when I saw the Ankh, it did. It just resonated, knowing that that's where it started from. It comes from us being one. And the eye of Ra and the eye of Horus is, you know, again, feeling that connection to them, because I do feel like I had Egyptian past lives. And it comes down to like how many past lives you've had, because this comes from my hypnosis sessions of where I lived and experienced in previous lifetimes. And it was a powerful connection to Egypt. And being that was one of my lifetimes and what I had gone through there. And so it made me resonate with the tattoos because of what they stand for. And for me, anything you put on your skin, you know, your body absorbs it, the DNA, like the cells, it's all. And so for me, it's just that, just like my necklace, little things that I carry is just telling the universe, this is part of me. This is, I recognize you almost. And I love the part of my life from Egypt. It was just like different times. And it's, I don't know, I can't explain it in words. The English language is so limited, first of all.
Yes, it
And
is.
for me, it comes to where I get stuck, where putting feeling into words, it just doesn't. But it was just a download that I got that resonated with, the cross not being something that I truly believed in. But I know that was the original, the masculine energy, because that's what we are, masculine and female energy. We're both at the same time. We're there to support each other. And that's why it was full circle. But because, Christians came and took over, like the Roman Catholic, they wanted to separate us. So they made the X, they made the cross. So they took away that from us so we wouldn't know our power. Just like everything, they take away from us so we don't know our power. Because women are more powerful than men. And we don't know that. And that's why the age of femininity is coming back in, because we're the ones with the portal in our life. And a lot of people think, oh, I just gave birth and it's something so simple. But if you really stop, stop and think, like, you literally have a portal. Like, how magical is that? You have a portal that who out there came a soul, enter your body, and you gave life. Like, literally gave life. It's such a understatement of saying I gave birth, because it's so minuscule to compare. Like, you created life from a little nothing, and soul came in from another universe, higher realm, higher dimension, different parallel life into your womb.
Yes.
And you through your portal, you created that love and that being that's going to be part of this world now, in this 3D life that we're living. So I think my tattoos all have meaning. They all represent, like, this one's with our soul, there's a way. My Reiki, because I did start wanting to be a healer.
I love that.
So they told me, Reiki was a way, and I love Reiki. I practice it. I love it, my crystals and things like that. So it's just what spirit calls on. If you allow spirit, again, you're always going to hear me. If you allow spirit, your life can take off. Your life can be in a different path. For sure, peace. A lot of people don't have peace nowadays. They're always worried about money. They're always worried about health. They're worrying about things. But if you believe in God and God tells you there's no need to worry, there's no need to not trust, and then you'll have such a peaceful life. Just serenity, the calm that comes with after the storm can be for you all the time. It really can.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think I would say my belief has changed into knowing, right? When you know God, just like we talked about with the sun coming up, like, you know it. And I want to just touch on something that you said about masculine and feminine, right? And I think that the feminine, we are definitely have more power in, like, the spiritual, intuitive, like, mystical sense, right? Like, when you're in touch with your feminine polarity, you're connected to that, right? The masculine, the men, they're very powerful as well, but they're more powerful. Their power is in the physical, right? So physically, they're usually stronger than us, right? Physically, they're able to do things in the world and in this realm of, like, this 3D world. And that's where their power is. When you're in your masculine, right? I'm sure you like get shit done in a different way than when you're in your feminine, right? So whatever your core polarity is, I think is where people should work with that energy, right? Like, when I'm in my masculine, in certain times it's fantastic, right? Like in my job, I have to be maybe more masculine, more assertive, the person that's like trailblazing, the one that's creating the program, the one that's doing and keeping everybody else in line and being like, hey guys, like, this is how we operate, right? The captain of the ship, basically. And then there's times where I need to step into my feminine. And I'm like, you know what? I trust it's going to work out, right? Like, when we're getting new clients, if I'm like in this energy of, oh my God, like, I have to go out and I have to find more people to bring in so we can make more money. Like, that's not where my energy is. There's other people that are working on that. So me worrying about it is me starting to step into the wounded part of my masculine, where I'm worried about my security, about money, about having things, and about keeping my job security. But then when I'm like, you know what? Everything's going to work out. We're going to get a new person. They're coming right now. They're on the way. The universe is sending them to us for them to be healed, right? Because I work in mental health. It's like that one person will leave that's done with their mental health journey, or at least done with us with their mental health journey, and the next person just flows in. And when I trust like that, it works out great. So we all like have these things that we have to step into at different times. And I think, like you were saying with the feminine, with us being the portal for life, like we're creating it, we're the portal, right? And then the masculine does have its part to play. Like it gives us the seed to create that, right? And we work in union to make this beautiful life come. And it's just the feminine and the masculine is such a difficult conversation for a lot of people. And I think our world is really struggling right now with the feminine and masculine, and we can see it, where people are really confused and they're like flopping back and forth on what to be and who to be. And I want to say, like, from what I've learned spiritually is that our world is going through a Kundalini awakening right now. And that awakening is switching the polarity naturally from masculine. We've been in the age of the masculine, and you've seen how the world has operated, how things have operated from us being in conscious masculine and wounded masculine throughout these last however many thousands of years.
Yeah. Right.
And now that Kundalini awakening is coming to where it's switching into the age of the feminine. And I want to say, I think the confusion of, do I be in my masculine? Do I be in my feminine? Is because that polarity is coming. The switch is coming, and finding like your North Star, like where you feel the most comfortable with in that time, 100% go with it. But make no mistake that like spirit knew and knows that it sent you in this body for a purpose and reason. And I know there's a lot of people, and I've dealt with it in mental health, that are confused and changing their body to be something different. And I know it's a touchy subject for people, and it's hard to get into, but when you heal a lot of those parts of you, especially, and I see this often, people that have wounds from the masculine, right? And they're feminine, they want to be masculine. They want to be a man. Women that have wounds from women or men, it's like they want to be the opposite. They want to be the thing that created the wound. And it's incredible to see how that operates and how that's working. It's just, and it's on a spiritual level, it's something completely different, you know?
So speaking on before we let go on that topic of the feminine and masculine energy, like you said, it has to be balanced, you know, because that's where we get, where you're too masculine, you want to control, you know, we don't have the connection, we don't have emotional. But when then the feminine is too much and her feminine, then, you know, you're too emotional, you can't function, you're always emotional, everything, you let your feelings, your thoughts just run you.
Yes.
So we have to find that balance. It's like the yin yang, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what we have feminine, that's what we have masculine. It's a yin yang.
Yes.
And so the same thing is finding your balance of like, when it's, like you said, when it's time to be feminine, be feminine. When it's time to be masculine, be your masculine. But we all hold the dual energy.
We do.
And that's what the Ankh is. We're connected. That's why the full circle on it. Because we're one. We're not separated one here and then the little cross. That's not us. We're full circle. We're full one. We're one of the same. But you see it a lot in society now, like where you're talking about, you know, people wanting to cure and then they go try to fix their body because they wanted to. And I do believe it's the soul, you know, if in your past lifetime you're, you know, feminist, or in your past life you're machista, then in this lifetime you get to fix some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're not fixing it in your mind where you're okay with it, then you want to start altering your body to reflect that. And your soul's not going to grow like that.
Yeah.
Because that, I mean, it's like changing houses. Oh, I want the bigger house. Is that change house? The problems are not going to go away.
Yes.
It's within.
I love that you said that.
It has to be within.
Yes.
Just within, because you're going to go without.
Yeah.
And that's when you won't heal.
I love that you said that, because it's the same thing with relationships, right? If you're having problems in your relationship, a lot of times, like, there's something that you can do to work on internally for yourself. Right now, this is not to say that if somebody's in a relationship that somebody is completely abusive and doing something to you, like get support and get help. Right. However, a lot of times, like there's just simple things that are happening and people always think you're the problem. And if I get a new person, the grass is going to be greener. Right. But the grass isn't always greener. It's going to be green where you decide where you're going to take care of it. And when you run away from that relationship, what you'll find is that the same issues will come up just in a different relationship. Maybe at the beginning, things will be nice. Everyone goes through the honeymoon phase, right? You see the surface parts of people. But when you sit with the darkness and the depths of people, that's where you really fucking know who somebody is.
Yeah.
And that's when you learn who you really are too. Because who are you going to be in that darkness and showing up for that person? And it's a call to action for you, for that individual and for you, if you guys have enough awareness to work on it and to shift and change things, you know? And so bringing it back to the whole shifting of the body from the feminine and masculine, and us being so identified with the physical body that we feel like I have to change this so it matches what's going on inside. But this is the vessel for the spirit to come and experience life here, you know, and we do it. And even if people are shifting and changing their body, regardless of whatever we say, that's part of their journey too.
Of course.
And them finding whatever they need to find in doing that.
Yeah.
And that's their lesson. And spirit, everything's perfect and it's all working out for them too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone, and however it needs to.
Yes. I do believe that. Again, going back to the soul contract, that was their soul contract that they decided to work on to expand, you know, in this lifetime to have some kind of resolution for the soul to grow for the next lifetime. You know, maybe they needed this particular incident so they can have like that growth that they didn't get to the last time. And for me, I feel like there's so many times I'm so masculine. But for me, I feel like there's been times where I don't let my spirit take over to realize like my soul to account. It's not the vessel, you know, that I sometimes get away with. I get too carried away with, oh, I want to be more feminine. Oh, I want to be like, you know, and my spirit is like, stop. Like, and I hear it and I'm like, and I'll talk to my friends that are so feminine and I'll be like, oh, I wish I could be more like you. And they're like, what? They're like, I feel so weak. Sometimes I look at you and you're so strong. I'll be like, you. And it's like, we're each other's lessons.
We are.
You know, we're each other's. If you really take the time to like what we're doing right now, we heal one another. You know, we heal, we give, we share. And it's all in that loop. It's all going and flowing through the universe, through whatever, this 3D, whatever, 5D. And like you said, I wanted to touch on the relationships because that's so important because we're hurting right now. Oh my God, the dating, I'm being single and the dating world out there. Oof, let me tell you,
it's tough.
It's like, I used to always complain and be like, man, masculine, the men out there, they're just so like masculine. And I'm such a, like, I want a manly man because for me, I grew up with my dad being what I would call a manly man. And he was a provider and he knew his role. And my mom was very, you know, feminine to her role. And I felt like together they had that balance and I loved it. But now, you know, like you said, the whole thing of like even the nouns, what is she, he, me, he, she, whatever the pronouns that we have to address them properly. As far as taking it to like even the bathrooms, I'm like, God, like,
I know.
That's how much shit we've gone down into that, I don't even know what the word is, but into that abyss of where we got lost in that, you know, we got lost in
we did.
To go as far as like the bathrooms, it's like, God, like,
I know. That's us
we
trying
just need to heal each other to be more kind, more compassionate, to say, okay, man, maybe, you know, you are a little bit, but it doesn't change your soul. It doesn't change who you are. You are who you are. It's like being in a car. And I've been thinking about that a lot because the soul, like our body's the vessel, but our souls what really counts, right? And the same thing goes like the car wouldn't move and we wouldn't get in it, right? An airplane doesn't move if the pilot's not in it.
Yeah.
So those are just vessels. Our body is just a vessel. It's not paying attention to your body.
Yeah.
I mean, for health reasons, yes. Well, aesthetically,
I know. Well, I think that's part of just our humanness, getting so like stuck in different ways that we can control, right? It's all different ways that we can control things. It's these layers upon layers upon layers and layers of control. And we think it's like this big thing, right? Oh, it's a big thing. Like you need to refer to me as this, right? Like even like people being, and I've had this with doctors, right? Where they're like, oh, I went to school for such and such time. You referred to me as doctor. Like that too. It's all control. It's all this way of we're controlling our environment, ourselves, the people around us, all with layers and layers and layers of control. So we can be confused and lost in the control and not trusting and just really trusting what's happening. And the truth, like the sun, we know it's going to come up. We don't worry. We don't think about it. We don't plan it. It just happens. It just is. Yeah. So that trusting is so important.
it's just, I believe it is just part of the agenda because it's just them wanting us to keep us in the sense of, we're disconnected.
Yeah.
We become disconnected.
And separate.
Yeah.
To the separation.
Titles, like,
yeah.
And again, it's because we don't do the inner work. We don't get all the stuff that's inside. Oh, well, let me change my body then because it's easier.
Yeah.
It's easier than to go within.
Yeah.
And fight those demons, that darkness. Because people are like, oh, I don't have no darkness. Oh, I'm sorry, honey.
No, we all do.
We all do.
Yeah.
We all have. And me, myself, I haven't really dealt with my darkness. I'm so in love with my lightness and my spirituality.
Yeah.
I haven't touched on that. But do I know that it's there? Heck yeah. There's things that I won't even dare, but I'm not there yet, but I know I'll get to it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the stuff that I've noticed is that we want to be in control, like you said, but everything's through the physical.
Mm-hmm.
But if we really want to live this beautiful, peaceful, harmonious, blissful life and just love itself, you got to start within. You got to put that, you got to purge all that shit that's been building from the day that you were born, all that hurt, all that pain, all the experiences, all those conversations, all that stuff that goes in.
Mm-hmm.
You got to wipe them out. You got to change the memory on your computer. You got to change the, like your phone, that iOS system, you got to upgrade it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't stay stagnant. You can't stay with that. And that's the same thing. Like everything has polarity. Everything. There's no darkness. There's no light without darkness. Mm-hmm. There's no goodness without evil. There has to be two, because how would we know the difference of good if there's no bad?
Yes, I agree. And that's how we get to know ourselves the best. Really, when you truly start to know yourself is by being in the darkness.
Yeah.
And going through that and coming out through the other side. Yes, I agree.
100%.
So we're getting close to our time here. So I want to ask you one last question is, what would be the biggest lesson that you feel that you've learned during your spiritual journey? Something that if you were to give out, say to the people right now, what is the lesson that you learned that you want to share with everyone and remind them?
I'll say really quick before we answer that's why it's so important to go within and clean it out. And clean it out, because that's why I love spirituality, being a spiritual person, not religious, but spiritual, because it's going to get you to a place of healing versus when people are religious, they don't always believe. And when you're spiritual, you don't believe, So that's the biggest difference. And, and in a way, that's kind of answering your question, because that's part of my biggest takeaway from coming into spirituality and being in this journey of it. It's probably my biggest thing of like, not having to worry whether I believe some of the things from the Bible and being religious, because now it's just a knowing. I know God has me. I know the universe stores energy. I know my life will be good and I'll always be at peace. I know I will be provided for because I've done the work. I'm continuing to doing the work. And spirituality has given me this gift. It's given me this gift of being at peace, of letting go of my hurt and oh my God, like 20 years, Nicole. If I told you the stuff that I went through, that was dark. That was dark. And for somebody's heart to be broken for over 20 years and still function like a robot and pretend, that was hard. It was hard. I lived with a lot of pain. I lived with a lot of anger, a lot of resentment. My life could have been so much better 20 years ago. But I did give in.
It's all perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
And so now with the spirituality, that's what I get to take away. Like, I don't need to believe in certain phrases and verses from the Bible. I get to know.
Yeah.
I know being a spiritual person. I know the sun's going to rise tomorrow. I know I'm breathing. I don't need to hear myself. But I know the air. I don't need to see it. And I don't need to see God to know that God's with me.
Yeah.
Angels are with me. The universe, energy, I'm experiencing it all. So that's one of my biggest takeaway.
I love that. And it sounds like we're going to have to do another episode at some point, because we just have so much that we
love to share my experiences. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you give in, oh my God.
Yes.
You don't need to see the evidence, but you'll see evidence. And I've seen evidence, and I'm like, oh.
Yes.
I just want to.
Oh my gosh. So we got to do another episode, and we'll have to do that soon, because there's so much. Yeah.
What's out there will blow your mind. Yes,
I agree. So tell people where they can find you.
My Instagram is frantastic.one, the word one, ONE. Facebook, I don't really use it. But
no, it's your Instagram?
Yeah, mainly my Instagram.
Okay, got it. Yeah, and I will put that in the show notes so you guys can find Francelia. And thank you so much for being here and sharing your experience.
It's an honor.
Yes, thank you.
I closed my eyes and I saw your arm.
Oh, nice. Good. Thank you.
To end with that?
Yes.
Oh, what an honor.
I love it.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the feminine voice of God. May the divine feminine within you continue to guide and inspire your spiritual journey. Stay connected, share your insights, and embody the wisdom shared on our podcast. Until next time, may the sacred essence of the feminine illuminate your path.